Hello everybody, my name is Necroxis, and it is finally time for the Final Fantasy XIV next expansion announcement trailer. I have no idea what it's going to be. As I've said before, if you've paid attention to my videos, Final Fantasy XIV is my favorite MMO of all time. I don't talk about it as much on this channel because every time I have, a bunch of butthurt WoW fans downvote and just make the video trash. Because they can't handle the fact that another game might be better than their game, even though you should be a good consumer and just play good games and not be loyal to a company that makes $1 billion plus a year, tax-free, and just wants your money. But anyway, so this announcement should have, if we didn't have COVID, this announcement would have came like in December or even November. Because what Square Enix does is they do basically little mini BlizzCons like 3 or 4 times a year called fan fests, where they'll talk about the new content. And once a year, one of the fan fests will be bigger, and they'll talk about the new expansion. Although the one after that will talk more about the expansion. Usually there's a fan fest announcement, and then a fan fest that talks more about the expansion before it comes out, and then the expansion comes out. So tonight, on Friday, there are 2 different panels. There's this one, which we're about to watch, or at least the trailer for it, because the trailer was the first thing from what I saw. And then later on in the night in Japan time, they're going to talk about the next patch, which is 5.5, but we're not going to be reacting to that here. So just some thoughts. I don't have any idea where this game could be going. Final Fantasy XIV is interesting because it's hard to tell what the next content's going to be, even though when you get it, it always makes perfect sense with the story. But the writers are so good that they can mask where the story is going to be going for the most part until you get to the final patch right before the expansion, which for 14 is patch 0.55. So all the expansions will do that. Like 2.0, it'll be 2.55, and then it goes to 3.0, 3.55, then to 4.0, 4.55 to 5.0, 5.55, which we should be getting sometime this year going into this next expansion. So, the literally only thing I could predict is based on 5.4, we had the Asian Fandaniel, who was working for Xenos, the most boring villain who somehow is going to go all the way to the end. But Fandaniel literally was like, fuck y'all, I don't care about any of you, I hate everyone, I hate myself, I want to die, I want to kill all of you, I want to destroy the world in the apocalypse. And Xenos is like, yeah, go ahead and do it, because if the apocalypse has started, eventually us, the hero, the warrior of light, will have to confront Xenos, who is directing Fandaniel to do this, because all Xenos is battle horny, and he wants to just fight us one-on-one, like we have a couple times before, which is when we killed him, and then, you know how he got back to his body. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm done rambling. We're going to see what this is. I'm super excited. I love this game, and it's going to be harder for them to top Shadowbringers, but I'm excited for them to try. And even if it's not as good, it'll still be fantastic. So here we go in 3, 2, 1, now. Ooh, Business Creative Unit 3. That's the new unit they created just for 14 because of how popular it was. They gave them their own unit in Square Enix. Alright, Soken, give it to me, baby. What's the song you got? What a weird choice. I like it, though. It's us! What is he wearing? He's like wearing Asian cloak. Like an Asian-themed wardrobe, almost. It looks like, based on the shadow. It would make sense. We are kind of an Asian. We're like a Heidelin Asian, basically. He was on the moon, I just realized! What?
The final days were upon us. The fabric of the star had begun to fray, its lands rent by tooth.
Is that Emmett Selk's voice actor? Ah! High-res Alisaie! She's still a red mage. Oh, she's the best. If Alisaie is here, Alphinaud has to be here. Oh, it's us. What class is he? I guess a paladin. Is sword and shield. What the fuck is this? Like Gundam lasers? It's Alphinaud! Is that a new healer class confirmed?
And I've had enough of this rabble. Come on!
I'm a main healer. I'm a healer, man. I love it. What is he? Oh, there's that bitch. There's Fandaniel. What the fuck is this? And now we're in a Mind Flayer spaceship from Dungeons and Dragons.
Past the far edge of fate. Ring blades
Oh, and there's this
dark
bitch.
and light.
The moon. We're on the moon.
Coming of the end.
Give us the name. Give us the release date. Is it Forspoken, like the leaks say? Endwalker. Release date? What the fuck was Alphinaud? That's got to be a new class. What class is that? What class is that? So I'm a healer main on Final Fantasy XIV. I play a white mage, right? That's what I currently play. But what the shit was that? All right, hold on. So we're going to the moon? Because every expansion, the Warrior of Light, represented by that man with the beard who looks like Ardbert, he plays a different class. So, for example, in Heaven's Ward, he was a Dragoon, because that was very Dragoon-themed. Stormblood, he was a monk and a samurai, because both of those thematically were very appropriate to the aesthetic of that expansion. Also, samurai was announced that way. Stormblood was interesting because they showed them play like basically every melee DPS class. Even I think Bard at some point. But then they finally settled upon Dark Knight. But then they switch in Endwalker to a Paladin. Is this the Final Fantasy IV expansion? Like, is the final expansion of this arc the Final Fantasy IV expansion? Because the main character went from a Dark Knight to a Paladin, just like Cecil does in Final Fantasy IV, and they go to the moon, just like in Final Fantasy IV. I gotta go back really quick and look at that ship that was falling in the background. Was that the lunar whale? Where is it? It kind of looks like it, like a whale shape. The lunar whale was a spaceship in Final Fantasy IV, which is how you get from the planet to the moon, which is where the final boss was. But why are we going to the moon? Like, the only thing I could think of, because we've seen Elidibus, the Ascian, the emissary, the white-robed Ascian, we've seen him on the moon a ton of times. And based on that logo, it looks like a spaceship going to the moon that's empty in the middle. Zodiark is trapped in the moon. Follow me here. Zodiark's trapped in the moon because Zodiark got destroyed by Hydaelyn and split and blah, 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 blah. But the reason that Elidibus was constantly on the moon is because Elidibus, we find out, was the heart, or like the core of Zodiark. So it would make sense that he always would be on the moon, close to where the rest of Zodiark is imprisoned. And because we killed Elidibus in 5.3, that's why there's a fucking hole in the moon. Like, alright, hold on. I gotta see if I have the live stream up, but I'm not gonna have my whole reaction to it. I gotta see if they are any other videos right now. So hold on 1 second. So I'm gonna cut here. Because I feel like if there's a new class, they're going to have like a video for it. So I'll be right back. Okay, so cut. Yes! There's a new class. It's called Sage. That's what Alphinaud is. I don't know what... They were very light on what it was, but they have a video here that's about 50 seconds long. So let's take a look at it too in 3, 2, 1, now. What the fuck? Like 4 mana swords? There's like no other class in Final Fantasy in the franchise like this. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, they're a shield healer. That's got to be the AoE attack. That's just their victory pose? I might have to be a sage. I might have to give up my white mage boys and be a sage. So they said, I was listening to the stream before I saw the video was put up on their YouTube. They said the sage is going to be a shield-based healer. And they're going to transition, I believe they said, because Scholar is a shield-based healer and Astrologian is also kind of a shield-based healer. They're going to make Astrologian more direct heals, like the White Mage, so that the shield healers are the Sage and the Scholar, I think is what they said. I really like the White Mage as the White Mage is cool because I have this fantasy of really liking like mage characters who are just like, I'm super strong and I'm a mage. And that's kind of like what a Black Mage is, but I don't really like how Black Mage plays in this game, to be honest. So I play a White Mage, but they just look so cool. I'm gonna have to be a Sage. So another thought I had as I was listening to them talk about Alphinaud becoming a Sage is that outfit and the gear, it looks really. We've never been here in the game. But it really reminds me of, like, Sharlayan, like the homeland of Alphinaud and Alisaie and their parents. And we've never gone to Sharlayan, but it's always been a thing that a lot of fans are like, oh, we probably are going to go to Sharlayan one day. And they've talked about it quite a lot recently. In fact, in 5.3 and 5.4, Alphinaud and Alisaie separately have talked about their parents back in Sharlayan. So, as I was finding this video and listening to the stream, I had a thought, like, what if... They also said we're going to Garlemald, too, by the way, which is finally, we're going to the Empire, which is, like, something that we've all wanted forever, which is going to be great. So we're going to the Empire, we're going to Sharlayan is my prediction, that's not confirmed. We're going to the Empire, we're going to the Moon, and we're going to Radzet Han, one of these towns that also have been very frequently mentioned in the story, but we've never been there on the island of Tharnvir, I think is what it's called. But my theory is, Sharlayan is known as like the city of scholars. It's where all the smart people go. It's where all the scions of the Seventh Dawn are from, for the most part. They're very intelligent people who basically have stayed out of the war that thus far has been participated in Final Fantasy XIV. So, because the end of the world is apparently coming, is what they've said on the stream, and then we end up at the moon somehow. My thought is, and they've basically on the stream pretty much confirmed this is the Final Fantasy IV expansion. But if it's like Final Fantasy IV, and I seriously think it is, because we have a Dark Knight going to a Paladin, and we end up at the moon at the very end for the final battle. My thoughts are, we are going to go to Sharlayan early on, and that is where Alisaie gets her new outfit, and that is where Alphinaud becomes a sage, and at Sharlayan, I feel like we're going to go other places like the Empire and Radzet Han, and then come back to Sharlayan, much like in Shadowbringers, how you go to Yulmore early on, but then don't come back till the end of the leveling experience. We're going to go through the whole leveling experience and come back to Sharlayan, and by then, they will have built the Lunar Whale, the fucking spaceship from Final Fantasy IV, and we're going to take the Lunar Whale and fly to the moon to fight Xenos. And my prediction is, because Xenos has found out that Hydaelyn and Zodiark, the primals who once were thought as gods, were actually just created by immortals, he has said in 5.4 that he wants us, the Warrior of Light, and himself, Xenos, to feast on and consume Hydaelyn and Zodiark to get their powers so that when we fight each other, we're at our full strength. My theory is, if this is based on Final Fantasy IV, Xenos is going to go to the moon where Zodiark is. And it makes sense because that moon has a hole in the middle, which would explain why it thought there was a hole there, because Elidibus, the heart of Zodiark, has been killed. So he's not around anymore. So it would make sense if there was a hole in the moon. Xenos goes to the moon. Somehow, I don't know how, I don't know if Zodiark is like inactive now because his heart's been destroyed, but he consumes or otherwise steals the power of Zodiark, or fuses with it, which we've seen him do before, with Shinryu in Stormblood, and he becomes the final villain of this 10-year storyline, the Final Fantasy IV final boss, Zeramus. That is my theory. It fits too perfectly. Zeramus is the final boss of Final Fantasy IV, resides on the moon. It basically is an entity of just pure darkness that's been manipulating the story the whole time, behind the scenes in Final Fantasy IV. Xenos wanting to go to the moon and kill and absorb Zodiac. It has to be Zeramus. That has to be what it is. Like, that has to be what he does. But I'm super excited. If there wasn't COVID, if there wasn't another reason to fucking hate COVID, is that this expansion probably would have come out in the summer. But fall 2021, they've confirmed, from what I've seen people saying online on Twitter. Because the reason I'm checking into the stream now and then, but the reason is it's very charming, but it's very long drawn out how the stream goes. So I'll give credit to Blizzard for one thing. When they do like their announcements, they get through it in like 10-15 minutes, and then they'll do a panel later that's like an hour long. This is like just that 10-15 minutes bit stretched out for like 2 hours, and it gets kind of boring at times because not only are you waiting to translate from Japanese to English, but they over-explain a lot of unnecessary things. Like they spent like 20 minutes explaining why there had to be a level, like a stat squish. It's like, okay, we all get it. Like, you didn't have to spend so much time on this. But so I'm checking in here and there, but it sounds like they said patch 5.5 is coming out on April 13th, and then patch 5.55 is coming out at the end of May, which means we're going to have all of June, July, August, September, probably October. I doubt this will be out before like November. 5 months with no content, which is a lot for this game. Usually it's like 3 months, like it chunks. So I don't know. I'm super excited. Like, not only is this the best MMO I've ever played, this is the best Final Fantasy story, even if you take into account the single player storylines. Like, Shadowbringers is the best Final Fantasy game they've ever made. Emmett Selk, the villain of Shadowbringers, is the best Final Fantasy villain. And so we've been, for people who don't know the story really of this game, we've been on the first arc of the story, the first story arc of the Final Fantasy XIV world, called the Hydaelyn and Zodiac arc, and that arc is ending in 6.0. So it's been like 10 years of development, even including Final Fantasy 1.0, which they failed and remade. Like, this whole time we've been doing one story arc, and it's coming to an end, and whatever comes after next is totally different. So I'm so fucking excited for it. But yeah, so that'll be fun. I can't wait to play it. I might have to be a sage. I guess it depends on how they play. But damn, they look cool. So I guess that's it for me, everybody. I'll see you next time. But until then, stay awesome. And to the moon. To the moon, though.